Zach is back. It's the Zach Gelb Show on Fox Sports 920 The Jersey.
Welcome back. Football is back. Well, we don't have any preseason games yet, and we don't have the regular season, which people love. I can't wait for the regular season to start, and I sit down on a football Sunday and watch the game starting at 1 and go on all the way into Sunday night, and then do it again each and every weekend watching the NFL, as it's the most powerful sport in America right now. But training camp for the Birds did begin today. The veterans will join the bunch in a few days on the 27th, but rookies and some select veterans were in attendance today at the NovaCare Complex. And now joining us on the hotline is a former Philadelphia Eagle. You know him as Emmanuel Acho, and he joins us right now. Emmanuel, great to talk to you again, and how are you?
I am very well, man. Glad to be on the show.
Well, it's great to have you on. And last time we had you on the show, we were talking about that whole prom thing that happened where someone asked you to the prom and you went on out there to the prom and made some young girl's day in a high school. So how'd that whole prom thing go? I know we were never able to circle back after we heard about it.
Look, the prom went great. That was, I guess, a little bit over a year now. It really kind of boosted my social media and my Philadelphia stamp as far as who I was as a person. But that went great. It was a great time.
I remember we were joking at the time that I was going to join you as a bodyguard because you were going to be dealing with a lot of Washington Redskins fans at that prom. So did anyone yell something negative about the Eagles at that prom?
Man, it was more or less jokes in passing, kind of drive-by sly comments, if you know what I mean. But there wasn't too much in-your-face fandom debate.
That's great. As Emmanuel Acho joins us right now on the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. So you've been a player that's been involved in training camps. What's that first day of training camp like and getting back with the guys?
Oh, that first day is a day of mixed emotion. I mean, you know, the guys we're sitting here, we're eager for months and months since the season ended. Obviously, depending on how the season ended, you're antsy. You want to get back. You want to right the wrong from the year before, or you want to build on the success from the year before. The problem is, as soon as that first ache and pain kicks in, you really start rethinking your life decision. But no, the highlight really of this time frame for the guys is being back with the guys. It's the camaraderie. It's getting back in the locker room. The guys that you love, although you might not tell them that very often, but guys that you really just like being around and building around.
Best rookie prank you've ever seen?
Well, remember, Chip Kelly wasn't too big on rookie pranks. However, I know there's a long NFL tale. In my rookie year in Cleveland, 2012, a guy by the name of Scott Fujita, 10-year NFL veteran.
Sure.
He was a linebacker. Scott told me about how, I guess when he was a rookie or one of those times, that they left a note outside of all the rookies' doors, outside of their hotel doors, saying the head athletic trainer needs a stool sample left in his office, right? Obviously, rookies, they don't know any better. During training camp, you get drug tested 2 or 3 times. So having to leave a stool sample isn't too far-fetched. So that was probably the best rookie prank I've ever heard.
Did you pass it? I hope so, right?
Thankfully, that wasn't a prank on me. Really, I didn't have too much to do as far as a rookie outside of bringing guys McDonald's here and there.
That's unbelievable. So you've been in that situation where you're trying to impress the coaching staff because, as you know, the training camp, it's synonymous with the word competition. So how much pressure is there on a player that's trying to make the squad, make the 53, and really impress that coaching staff?
Yeah, honestly, there's nothing like it. There's really, I don't know how many jobs in America equate to the kind of pressure that an NFL player will face over the next 30 days. You know, you have to understand they dwindle the roster down to 53. There's a 10-person practice squad. So of the 90 people there, roughly 40% won't be there, number one. Number two, of the 53 spots available, if we can all be honest, only about 10 or so are up for grabs. You know, the third, fourth, and fifth linebacker spot, the backup guard and tackle spot, maybe the third and fourth and fifth receiver spot. There might be a kicking competition here and there, the backup quarterback spot. Realistically, about 37 to 40 of those spots are already locked from high-paid veterans, high draft picks, and guys from the year before. So there's roughly 30 to 40 guys legitimately competing for 10 spots on a roster.
Describe to me what it was like to play for Chip Kelly, because a lot of it was made, and now he's no longer the coach here, and there was a lot of rumors out there that the players didn't like him, and you've seen some players respond since his firing. But what was it like to play for Chip Kelly?
Playing for Chip Kelly was fun because he was an innovator, and I love being a part of history, and I think Chip Kelly really changed the way the NFL was approached from a nutrition standpoint, from a health standpoint, from a recovery standpoint. Obviously, playing for Chip was taxing. Playing for Chip was grueling. In his 3 years that we were there, if you started every game, you played 5 or 6 more games than anybody else over that time period. That puts a toll on your body. Essentially, as a defender, you were playing a season and a half to everyone else's season. Obviously, as an offensive player, everyone knows the repercussions. It was fun. It was exciting, but it definitely was taxing as well.
Especially for the defensive players, because of how many plays that he did try to run, and the offense wasn't that great as expected last year, and you had the defense go out and not get that much rest. And this defense this year under Jim Schwartz, I think it's going to be better because of that, because you're not trying to run 100 plays in a game and run the plays so frequently. So I think this defense for the Eagles is going to improve off that, Emmanuel.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, the Eagles always have the talent, especially defensively. When you have a guy like Fletcher Cox up front, you have a guy like Malcolm Jenkins in the back end, and you have a stable linebacking core. They have the talent. It's really just a matter of playing up to the talent. I think a lot of fans don't realize everybody's getting paid a lot of money to play at a high level. So who will play with the discipline? Who will play with the consistency? And who will come to play week in and week out? It's not just about speed. It's not just about strength. Ultimately, you have to have a high football IQ across the board at every position.
As we're talking to Emmanuel Acho, who joins us right now. So a lot's going to be made about the quarterback position, because you have a situation with Sam Bradford, who was brought back, and then the Eagles make that trade to move up in the draft under Howie Roseman to get a player like Carson Wentz. And Wentz is going to be the future of this franchise, but they don't plan to play him that much this year. We'll see how that changes during the course of the season. But right now with Wentz, Doug Peterson has said that he's going to most likely be inactive on game day, because he is the third quarterback, and you know the third quarterback usually is inactive. As a player, a young player, if you saw that, how would you react to that with your being Carson Wentz? Because you know it's training camp. You like to at least see some competition.
Yeah, I think right now you have to consider everything is just talk. Over the next 30 days, we'll see what happens. Players get hurt. Players don't perform as well as expected. So right now, under the idealistic situation, in the ideal situation, Carson Wentz won't have to play. But remember, this is a guy that they spent a second overall pick on. So the fans are going to want to see him at the first sign of any fault in Sam Bradford or Chase Daniels. So if I'm Carson Wentz, it's a great situation for him. You don't have to go in there and try to perform right away. You don't have to go in there and try to put a team on your back. You really get to learn. If you look at some of the best quarterbacks right now, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, the list goes on, those are guys that weren't forced to play right away, and that paid dividends.
With Sam Bradford, he was clearly disgruntled this offseason, and he wasn't what he thought he signed up for when they went out there and traded a player, and they go up and get a Carson Wentz. I know you're no longer on the team, but did you at all talk to Sam this offseason?
I didn't talk to Sam too much this offseason. I talked to him a good amount, obviously, last season while I was with the Birds. I know Sam is a competitor. Sam played at OU. I played at Texas. So I've known Sam, and we've played against each other, dating back 8 years now. I know Sam is a competitor. He's a guy that really knows he can play at a high level. So obviously he was frustrated. But again, they paid him, a ton of money. obviously he was going to play in the NFL. They're not going to pay you upwards of $17 or so million, however much he's making. They're not going to pay you that much and put you on the bench. So Sam will go out there, he'll compete like he knows how to do, and ultimately he's a very good player. He'll do well.
Right now on my Twitter, we have a poll today, and it says, will the Eagles win 8 games or more this season? And 79% of the people right now say no. So with that being said, as someone that played in the league, do players at all look at that stuff on Twitter? Do they read what's being written about the team headed into a season?
Some do. It's definitely not healthy and not helpful at all. But it's hard to block out everything you see and read on social media. But beyond that, most of the players have a pretty good feel on where they are as a team. And they definitely will have a better feel come week 2 and week 3 of the preseason, not to mention if you're involved in any open practice. You know, my first year in Philadelphia with Chip, we had an open practice with the Patriots. We knew they were a much better team than us. Second year with Chip Kelly, we again had an open practice versus the Patriots. We knew, okay, we can compete with these guys now. Last year we had an open practice against the Baltimore Ravens for a week. We knew we were probably the better team. And so the players, they have a pretty good sense. It doesn't matter what you read, doesn't matter what you hear. You as a player know how talented your team is.
Wrapping up with Emmanuel Acho, who joins us. So let's get to some more important stuff. I've been following you on Twitter, and you're trying to do a lot of great work to get some change in a really messed up society that we live in right now. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing and who you're talking to when it comes to athletes trying to promote change with some of these senseless acts of violence that we're seeing.
Yeah, ultimately my goal is to positively influence my community. And right now my community is in Austin, Texas. Played at Austin, Texas from 2008 to 2011 when we went to a national championship. I have a pretty good footprint in this city. And in light of everything that was going on in the world, I wanted to make a difference here in Austin. So I reached out to the chief of police, reached out to Carolina Panthers running back Fozzie Whitaker, also played at Texas, reached out to Austin resident and Olympic gold medalist Natasha Hastings, and we sat down with the chief of police and we had an open dialogue. Thankfully, it was able to be aired on Sports Illustrated. ESPN's Longhorn Network broadcasted live. And it was just a good way to promote communication because as an athlete, as a person with influence, I'm not just going to sit by passively and watch our society continue to deteriorate, watch our race relations continue to fail.
You were at the ESPYs and you saw what LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, CP3, and Dwayne Wade had to say. How powerful was that, being someone that was in the building?
It was powerful. The words were touching. The words really struck a chord with me. But beyond that, I'm a guy and I'm a man of action, right? It's not just about tweets. It's not just about Facebook posts. It's about what are you actually going to do to see results. I love what they said at the ESPYs. I love their call to action. I know Carmelo's doing a lot. I know a lot of those other guys are doing a lot in their communities. But it's about the athletes getting off from Twitter and actually getting into their communities and making a difference. I'm sure you saw Malcolm Jenkins, Najee Good, I want to say Jason Kels. They met with the police commissioner in Philadelphia. That's what I'm talking about. That is what we need to see more of.
And right now we see some cops, they're killing innocent men, and we also see some men killing innocent cops. How do we put an end to this violence? Because you're right, so many people do say things, but how as a society do we do something to put an end to what's going on and really having a lot of unfortunate stories out there?
That's a great question. I think the first thing is we have to educate ourselves. Stereotypes will exist. Stereotypes will always exist. However, you cannot let a stereotype dictate your action, especially when it comes to something like murder. I think it's a matter of not being familiar enough and not having enough exposure with other races, which causes fear from one race to another, which causes uncertainty in situations. So I think we all need to educate ourselves beyond what we see on TV, beyond what we think about police officers, and beyond what police officers may think about African Americans, based on music videos and based on whatever the media may want to portray. We need to educate ourselves and we need to promote unity as opposed to promoting the stereotypes.
Emmanuel, what you're doing, I think it's wonderful, and you know the importance of this issue in our world right now, and I hope an NFL team is calling you soon so they can get your talent, but more importantly, your voice and the way that you impact people. So we appreciate the time today, and thanks so much for coming on.
Zach, thanks for the time.